First they fight you, then first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world. Of course, these are famous words from Med Money, program by Elizabeth Holmes, who at 19 dropped out of Stanford to start with a tuition money company called Theranos, and with a few drops of blood, being able to run all the comprehensive lab tests, which is about 200 tests or more. I've been reading a book by John Carreyrou, very brave journalist who investigated the story, who was very deep in the sense that he checked every detail, every fact. He wasn't biased. He was really trying to figure out what's going on. And he wrote a book called Bad Blood. I highly recommend it. I actually gonna read it on my channel, because I'm gonna read it for two reasons. Is because I am a struggling mom, and I love to read or I love to listen to books. Like, I can't read. My daughter won't allow me to read. But I wanted to read books for people that can't afford it. For people that can't afford to buy a book or to buy an audio book and to hear it like while they're taking care of a child. And so that's why I'm going to read this book. But I wanted to touch on a few things. That it's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful, it's a fascinating story. Beautiful in the sense that it shows all the complexity of human nature. Elizabeth Holmes, I am fascinated by her. First of all, she's an extremely intelligent woman. She's very bright. Then she has a very charismatic qualities, and she has these deep blue eyes, huge eyes, like almost alien eyes. And actually, I first got interested in her when I saw her on the cover of, I think it was a Fortune magazine, where she's like, few tiny drops. She's out for blood. CEO who's out for blood. And I saw, who's this lady? Like, she looks like a rock star, and then I find out that she's this amazing genius that, and she's hanging out with President Barack Obama and President Clinton and Jack Ma and all the celebrities, and everybody's talking about her, and she's only 19. I mean, I don't think she was 19 there, but she's a fascinating character. So, and this woman that is extremely unique, and very interesting, beautiful, and those big blue eyes, they're like wells, they're like so big, and she never blinks. She has this wonderful idea. She wants to disrupt healthcare, and instead of vials and vials, like when you take your blood, when you go to the doctor, and it's very, very expensive, especially if you don't have health insurance, which I don't, they draw the vials and vials of blood, and it's scary, it's expensive. I used to pass out every time they draw blood. I don't anymore. After I had my baby, like nothing, like after the pain that you go through childbirth, the needles don't bother you anymore. And so she wants to change this whole, that you just take a blood from tiny for finger prick, and you can run a variety of comprehensive lab tests, which is more than 200, to find out everything. And in fact, my grandma passed away from cancer. I talked about it in my other videos, and my mom had to be constantly ultravenously through the veins. She would have to be taking her chemo, or they would draw blood every week to make sure that she could take the chemo, and it was very exhausting. In fact, I even say that when my mom passed away, she was living in the Netherlands. She passed away from euthanasia because her cancer was terminal. She couldn't take the pain anymore, and the lady that came to give her that last shot, he couldn't find her vein, and she was pricking her, and it's a terrible experience, especially when they can find your can't find your vein. It's a little bit savage experience. It's like cruel, and they keep poking you with these thick needles. So she had this idea, and also there's the genetics, everything, the medicine is evolving, so soon they'll be able to actually see what kind of cancers you have by just taking a vial of blood. In fact, I have a friend, and friend's father is a doctor, and he says to me that every 2 years, every doctor, I think in his hospital, is just going through CAT scan. And the reason is because that's the best way to see if there's something going on, if there are any beginnings of tumors or something. So it's definitely a radiation, but it's worth it because you kind of catch all the cancers and all the terminal and scary diseases before, right in their beginning. So if the blood test was that way, then people could come to, let's say, Walgreens or Safeway. I'm naming these two companies because they were bidding for Elizabeth Theranos when the company was valued at $9 billion. Those two big companies, they were bidding. So you would, let's say you come to your pharmacy, to your local pharmacy, and you go and there's a menu, and it's like, and you order, okay, a blood test for glucose, $3, blood test to determine if you carry certain genes for cancer, $20. And imagine this, and you go and let's say you do it once a year or once every 6 months just to monitor that you're okay, and you don't need a doctor's note. So that was her vision, that you just come to a local pharmacy, and instead of paying $500 for like one blood test, you can order a variety of tests, especially for people that don't have insurance like myself, for people that are not citizens, that don't have insurance, for immigrants, for people that are struggling, for people that are single moms and can't afford health insurance for themselves because they have to pay health insurance for their child. So that was her vision. And so this woman, she's definitely, she's onto something. She cares about people, and she wants to do something great in the world. I do believe she wants to do something great. She wants to live a meaningful life. And as she starts this company, she starts to lie. And I think it's not at first. I don't think Elizabeth Holmes that we see in 2018, 2017, 2016, 2016, 17, 18, is not the same Elizabeth that started out at 19. I don't think it's the same person. I think she evolved. Maybe there were seeds of that person, but I think it kind of like almost like an onion, like you peel. Maybe it was her core, like who she became, but it was evolving sort of through that person. And of course, she became a person who was lying, who used fear and intimidation, who really a very charismatic person, but there's part of her that is toxic. There's part of her that is toxic, and she could be extremely charismatic. I mean, when I saw her presentation, TED presentation, I was mesmerized. I was like, who is this genius? Who is this person? And I think she could turn on that charisma with the right people, with George Shultz's and Henry Kissinger's and Sam Nunn's and David Boies and President Clinton and President Barack Obama. She turned on, and Rupert Murdoch, all these people were like in love with her. I'm not saying like in love that they wanted to sleep with her, but they were in awe of her. And she could turn on that charisma, and at the same time, as I read through the book, she could be extremely cruel, manipulative, toxic, evil person. And that's to the people that she didn't have to turn that charisma on. And this is very interesting to me because it's interesting to me because I start to understand the complexity of the human nature, in how complex we are, and how there's so many different parts of us. It's like a diamond that you turn around, and the different shades. And in fact, there's a new book by Robert Greene about the human nature. I want to get that book and I want to read it because in his recent interview, he said, all these personas that we wear at work, that we wear with other people, those are masks. Those are masks that you put on. And when you meet somebody, it could be like a guy that you like, remember that mask is not that person. There's something beneath that, and you have to find out what's the core, what's the character. And character is from the word carve. What's the core? What's carved inside of that person? And so I think it was a shock to me to find out that this lady, because I started hearing her about like when she became kind of rock star in 2016, and then find out that it was all a lie, and there was really no technology developed to do these blood tests. And in fact, some of the medical experts said that it's very difficult to crack. The blood that you take from the finger is a different blood that you take from the vein, because when you take it from the finger, there's other particles. It's not as pure as when you take it through the vein. Things like that. I'm not a medical specialist, but you obviously, I'm sure you can read many articles and you can watch much better videos than this about Elizabeth Holmes. But I think my main thing is that I was shocked to see, I was like, is this the same person? And, sometimes I talk to my friends and they see like this, like if they know somebody, like, well, this is so nice. This is such a nice person. And then some people say, well, no, that's a mean person. And I realized that this person could be both. They could turn on the niceness with certain people and be totally different with other people. And it's your job as, I think, if you want to be good at relationships, or if you want to be good at dealing with people, to kind of be able to judge people on a deeper level, and kind of be able, or not to rush even with the judgment, to try to look beyond the mask, beyond the facade, beyond the persona, beyond this rock star personality. So I'm actually disappointed that I felt like, okay, she didn't develop the technology. Nothing is working. Everything is a lie. Why could she say, I'm sorry, we don't have the technology yet? Why did she have to really lie? And I think the culprit of that came in when she went, actually the article came out in Wall Street Journal, very brave reporter. And you could read his book. He's not mean in his book. He's very, he just narrates you a story and he tells you facts. This is how it went. And it's not mean. It's very complex. It's extremely complicated. It shows you all the different and how life changes. It's like a life story, and I think of all of us, like if you take every person, we are all very complex. We're not like black and white, bad, good. Like it's a combination. But you want to be able to control your bad impulses, your bad, like envy and jealousy and greed and all of that. That all exists in all of us. But it's your duty to be able to control that so you don't do harm to other people. And I felt like she was evil. She was somebody that was very, very dishonest. And when that article came out, she went on Mad Money. She went to the Wall Street Journal summit, or whatever, the event that they have, like $5,000. It's like very famous people go there, or people who can afford it. And she said everything is a lie in that article. None of it is true. We have the technology that works. We can do 200 tests from a tiny pinprick, from a tiny drop of blood, and all our tests are extremely accurate. And obviously when they started poking, they saw that there were no peer studies, no medical reviews, and they saw that technology is not there. It's just not possible at the moment to do 200 tests. So she lied. She lied completely. I appreciate her ambition. I just feel like at some point she should have said, you know what, I'm sorry, we don't have the technology. And there should be a little bit of humility. And also the way she treated her employees. Everyone who said no to her was fired or intimidated. Yeah, fired, intimidated. And then she ran this company with her boyfriend, Sunny Balwani, who, I don't know if he's a smart man. I'm sure he's smart, but it seems like he's extremely arrogant, not a good guy. That's what I gather. Again, he probably was great to Elizabeth. And I always, when I read, like, how could she even date him? Or listen to him. He was like the meanest, like the things that he did. But again, I have to remember, he probably turned the charm with Elizabeth. He was different with her. I'm sure he was seductive and very nice and different than what he was to the employees or to other people. So it's the complexity of human nature that's what fascinates me about the story, but also being able to have that integrity, that honesty, and being able to be a stand-up person no matter what. It's very difficult because on one side we have greed, we have gains, we have fame, we have stardom, and here we have sort of sometimes if you're gonna be a person who's honest, sometimes you might not get to all that money but it's like I think this is more important. But I could see the division maybe, and even me as a mother, like I have my daughter and I'm like, okay, I want to be a good person. I want to be an honest person. I want to do a good job. I want to treat people good. But there are dilemmas. There are moral dilemmas. Like, okay, if I do this, I might gain more. But is it worth it? Like, should I, things like that. So there are moral dilemmas. It's a wonderful book. I'm going to start reading it. I highly recommend it to everyone. And John Carreyrou, thank you so much for being such a talented author, being so thorough, and being very straight to the point, straight to the fact, not being mean, not being sort of just writing a book for the point of eloquency or for the point to show what a great author, but for trying to be as truthful and as non-biased as you can be. You read this book and you go on this journey with Elizabeth. You like her, you appreciate her, and then you see that she turns into someone that wants to do great things, but maybe she didn't have good mentors. Maybe she didn't have somebody good by her side who could have said, hey, I know, because sometimes we need somebody like. And I think maybe her ego got to her. I mean, she's a rock star, $9 billion. I mean, Barack Obama named her ambassador of the USA. President Clinton, everybody wants to be her. I mean, these are my, if I had friends calling me and like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, these are my friends. And I'm like, oh my God, like I must be so amazing. So it could go to your head. I wish she had someone to, and you could also ask, because it's very interesting, like, how come the smartest people invested millions and millions of dollars in her company? That's interesting because I think she's very charismatic. I think she's a very magnetizing, interesting person. But I also think that she surrounded herself with all these people that saying she's amazing. I mean, imagine if you met me and Barack Obama said, Margarita is the most amazing, she's the star of the future, she's like, I'm going to invest in her. If I have my friends, Barack Obama, in my board of directors, George Shultz and Sam Nunn and all these people from the government Rupert Murdoch invested $125 million, you'll be like, yeah, I trust her. Like, if all these people trust her, like, she must be onto something. And so here's the bias that comes in. So it's important not to be blindsided by all this hoopla and be like, hey, but who's really this person and what is really this company is doing and how are they really working? So I'm going to read this book for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And it's a wonderful book. Please listen to it or go and buy it, read it. One of my favorite books in 2018. Thank you. Bye.